Hi chess fans, welcome to Tactics Explained. Today we're going to look at 5 positions, and in every position you can pause your video to find the best move and practice your tactical skills. But we will also learn an important calculation technique in every position. So let's have a look at the first position, white to move. Find the best move for white in this position. Okay, black has a queen and a minor piece, and white is material down, so white probably has to move c8 and queen the pawn. So now material is equal, but we have to make sure that all the moves work for white. So the king is still a little bit away from the queen, and also this bishop attacks the knight. And in a position like this, we want to, of course, look at all the checks that black can give. So let's have a look at queen b6 check first. In this position, we have king f7. The king attacks the bishop, so black has to react. Queen f2, giving another check and protecting the bishop. And king e8, and there are no more checks in this position. If in this position queen b3 check, the king could take the bishop, obviously. Okay, so queen b6 seems to work for white, but what about now queen g4 check, and attacking the queen behind the king as well? Okay, in this position, king f6 would allow black to give a check and win the queen. King f7 allows black queen g7 and coordinating with the bishop and winning the piece, and actually in this position mating. And the tactical motive here is that white has the resource king d6. Note that the queen is attacking the bishop and the queen. And after queen c8 takes queen, the position is stalemate. The black king cannot move to any of the squares around him, and the knight can also not move because it's pinned against the king. So that's an important tactical motive here. White can draw with king d6. Note that in this position, bishop takes allows white to draw as well, because in this position here, the king and the queen are now closely to each other. And even though black is a piece up, the position is drawn, because if the queens ever get exchanged, so imagine the queens were not on the board anymore, black only has the bishop, and with the bishop black cannot mate. And so white's king simply stays close to the queen, and nothing can happen. In this position here, black already has to run away, not to give checks, not to exchange the queens. And otherwise, for example, king b7, if black gives checks, the game simply continues like this, and black cannot win. Okay, so what can we learn from this position? Obviously, stalemate is a motive, a tactical motive that's always interesting to watch out for, and the motive of a queen and bishop ending, where it's not sufficient for black to win with a piece up if the king and the queen coordinate closely. Those are two motives that are interesting to know, but we also want to look at some calculation techniques. Now in this position here, we were looking at quite a few of long variations, and I would like to use this position to illustrate to you 4 calculation shortcuts. So, shortcut number 1. In the variation of Queen b6, we can play King f7, and a calculation shortcut is, in this position, that the king is attacking the bishop. So the queen could give all type of checks, potentially, but the fact that we are attacking the bishop is a calculation shortcut in this position. And this helps us to eliminate all moves other than queen f2. So if in one variation we attack a piece, we can shortcut all variations where black is not protecting this piece. Okay, because we know we can, if we win the bishop, we can draw very easily or maybe even win. Okay, in the variation, in the same variation, Queen f2, King e8. In this position, black does not have any more checks. So this is very, very common in queen endings, and it's a shortcut. As soon as we know the material is equal and we have a queen and the king is exposed, as soon as black cannot give any checks anymore, we know that we can draw, because let's say black goes here, then now suddenly our queen can start giving checks, and for example in this position already exchange queens. So another shortcut, if in a variation the opponent doesn't have any more checks with his queen, we can also stop calculating. Okay, in the variation King f7, Queen g7 allows black to coordinate the bishop and the queen. So whenever we have a variation where suddenly the queen can coordinate with another piece, for example in this case giving a check and attacking the knight behind the king with bishop and queen, it's also a shortcut. We can stop. Whenever we reach a variation where the pieces coordinate, we can stop calculating, because we know that black can win a piece. And it's another shortcut that we can know. Okay, and lastly, shortcut number 4. In this variation here, bishop takes e7, king c7, we have already said it before. Whenever in a queen ending the king can reach a safe close distance to his queen and coordinate with the queen, we can also stop. So basically in this variation, as soon as the king and the queen are close together, we can stop. So shortcut number 1, the king is attacking something, we can stop calculating. Shortcut number 2, the opponent doesn't have any more checks, we can stop calculating. Shortcut number 3, the queen can coordinate with the bishop, we can stop calculating. And shortcut number 4, as soon as the king and the queen can coordinate, we can also stop calculating. Okay, let's have a look at the next position. In this position, black to move. Okay, let's have a look what's going on here. First, white is threatening mate, so we have to give checks or do forcing moves, otherwise we lose. And this helps us because we can look out for checks. Now, rook c1 looks like a very good move because it gives a check and is also attacking the rook. And in the blitz game, we might be tempted to blitz out this move. So let's have a look what happens. King b2. Now if we take the rook, white can mate. So we have to give another check. But the king can escape, and there are no more checks in this position. Okay, so that's why rook c1 doesn't work, because we know we have to check. There's only one other move that makes sense to give a check. Queen f6 check, king b1 only move, and now rook c1. Rook takes only move, and now a very interesting tactical motive. This would be just a draw, or white would actually even be better in this position because there are still pawns on the board. But now interesting motive, queen a1 check, attacking the king. King takes only move, d takes c1, queen, bishop b1 only move, and checkmate. Okay, so what can we learn from this position? Well, obviously there were a few interesting motives in here. There was the motive of giving the rook check, and the rook is protected by the pawn. And then especially here the interesting motive is decoying the king to the corner and then queening and mating, and then having also this mate here because the bishop is blocking the escape of the king. But more than this, we also want to look at some calculation techniques. So what calculation techniques can we learn from this position? Well, there's one simple calculation technique that I want to highlight. Always calculate variations to the end. That's the only thing I want to highlight here, because after rook c1 that looks really good, and we might think, okay, we can give another check here and then everything falls apart. No, calculate variations to the end always, because otherwise you will overlook king a3 and there are no more checks. Okay, let's have a look at the next position. Black to move. Find the best move for black. Okay, so what's going on here? The black king is under siege. There are a lot of threats in this position. If white ever took here, the queen can give a mate here. The rook and the bishop might coordinate to give a mate down here. And there's a lot of checks in this position. So this bishop here is not really playing. This knight is controlled by this pawn. So it's also not really playing. The queen and the rook have a nice battery, but they are blocked by the d4. This rook has a nice open diagonal, but it's not coordinating with other pieces, so it's clear that there must be something in terms of attack on the king. And so if we look at the candidate moves, we first want to look at all the mates. So at all the checks. So queen, knight a2 is a candidate move, but white can simply take. And now it's really unclear how to continue. Knight d3 is the candidate move, because if c takes d, the rook can immediately win back the piece and we have pressure on this pawn. Rook e3 protects the pawn, and now we have rook f to b8, and you can see there's pressure on those two pawns, and the queen can come in to increase the pressure as well, maintaining on this square here the pressure on both of the weaknesses. The king has no squares and black will win. In this position here, black could also first play queen b5, and black can also play bishop h6, forcing this or bringing this bishop to a little bit better square, so that white has to protect the pawn. Bishop g3 is probably better than locking in this bishop entirely, to strengthen the position a little bit and then play against those two weaknesses. So bishop d3 check wins, and this pawn is weak, so we also have bishop takes, attacking both the bishop and the rook. And after bishop takes, we now have knight a2 check, king b1 forced, queen a3 with the motive of attacking the pawn. And now the king cannot go away, so king here loses. This square here is blocked by the knight. Queen protecting the pawn, of course, loses the queen. So bishop b3 forced, and now after rook b3, we have equalized the material, and this position is also winning. Okay, so if you ask yourself what's the best move in this position, it's both knight to d3 gives us a winning position, and also bishop takes c2 gives us a winning position. And if you have guessed any of these moves, congratulations, you solved the position. But now let's focus on a calculation technique. The calculation technique is very common in practical play, and it's called comparison of moves. So in this position, if you play bishop c2, you can reach, you can reach this position here. This is what we get in the variation of bishop takes c2. If we play knight to d3, we could get also this position here, or this position, or this position, after the bishop goes to h6. So the technique basically is, if you have a lot of good moves, you want to compare which one is the best. And this means you have to have the flexibility in your mind. If you calculate, for example, knight d3, check, and you see that after pawn takes, rook takes, you're taking this weak pawn, and you can see, okay, the rook can protect it. Now after rook b8, you can see, okay, I get a better position, I have not lost material, I'm going to stop here. You can improve your calculation by forcing yourself to go back and think, okay, knight d3 gives me this good position, but is there a better position? And if you have seen this candidate move, and you know that you can also get this position, and to get to this position we only calculated forcing moves, you will realize that this position is even stronger. It's already very hard for white to find a move. For example, bishop b1. Black has this massive threat of mating the king here, and you can just see already in this position all the pieces of all of black's pieces are very close to the king. So I would argue this position is much stronger for black than this position. And so the calculation technique is, if you have a good move and it gives you a winning position, if you have the time, check other moves and compare positions that you get from different moves. It's very valuable, because here white might still maybe save himself, but you might have a better move where the game will already be over in just a few moves. Okay, let's have a look at the next position. In this position, white to move. Okay, the correct move is bishop takes f6, simply because of calculating forcing moves. If the king moves to g6 to maintain coordination with the knight, we can play queen g5, and again the queen is coordinating with the bishop, so that we will win a piece and the pawn after queen h6, and probably more material in the next move. So if rook f6, we then have queen g5, again a variation where we only look at checks and forcing moves. And now if king f7 to protect the rook, we have the fork on the knight, or on the queen and the king. And if rook g6, we have the double attack on the queen. And after king g8, queen takes, h takes, we have won the pawn and the exchange and win. So this was a tactical position. The motives were just finding the candidate moves to give checks, to give a check and then find this check, and then just calculate variations with forcing moves. So I don't want to focus now, as I said, I don't want to focus only on the tactical motives like the double attack, like the double attack here, like the fact that the queen is attacking this knight, but I wanted to focus here in this position on a calculation technique and on a more advanced tactical concept. In this position here, material is equal, but black's pieces lack coordination. The king is open as well, but more importantly, black's pieces are not coordinating with each other. So what does coordination mean? Coordination means that, for example, this queen is not protecting this rook, or this rook is protecting this pawn. Well, for example, the queen and the bishop, they are coordinating because they are both attacking the same pawn. So coordination means that they are serving a common purpose. And coordination means things like this knight protects these pieces and is in turn protected by the queen. And so the point that I wanted to bring across in this position is that if you have a position where your opponent's pieces are not well coordinated, but your pieces are well coordinated, this is a tactical liability for black. And how do we exploit this? As always, we look at moves that take something or that give check. And this move exploits the miscoordination of the pieces because it is attacking pieces that are not protecting each other. And it is giving double attacks on pieces. But why does this move work if we calculate this variation? It works because our pieces are coordinated and the opponents are not. So if you ask yourself, how can I generate tactical opportunities? How can I generate a position where suddenly I calculate a candidate move and it turns out magically that it works? It's not magic that it suddenly works. It is because you have reached a position where you are coordinating your pieces and the opponent is not. So think about this. Pieces that are having a bad coordination are tactical liability. Okay, let's have a look at the last position in this video. In this position, white to move. Okay, what's going on here? First, black has the queen and white has two pieces and a rook. And black also has a pawn. So material is equal, but disbalanced. Okay. Then there's the motive of the rook having an X-ray attack on the king if this bishop ever moved away. But there's also the motive that this bishop cannot move away because if it moved away, the queen could take the rook. But then there's also the motive that white is to move and white has a number of checks here. Okay, and as always, after we've noticed a few general things like this, we're going to try all the candidate moves. Okay, so bishop h4 check is a candidate move, and we are giving check and attacking the queen. And the idea is, of course, that after king h3, for example, going out of the check, we can take the queen, and in this position we win because bishop and knight can mate the king, and we will probably be able to win this pawn. And however, if the king takes the bishop, rook takes, this position is drawn because white can stop our pawn and white can never mate again. Okay, so with white to move, this only draws. Okay, so let's look at another candidate move. Bishop f4, checking on the other side. Well, if king takes, rook takes, king takes, again, what now? It's a drawn position. Okay, next candidate move. What we had this check, we had this check, we had this check. Now let's have a look at knight e2 check. Well, the queen can simply take, And what now? Black is even winning here. So that doesn't work. So what about the last check? Knight f5 check. The king can move away. Obviously not to a dark square, because then we would have a double attack again and black would lose the queen in the game. So the king stays on the light square. Now we maybe have knight h4 check, but the king just moves away and goes to a dark square again. Don't forget this bishop is pinned. So as long as the black king stays on light squares, only the knight can attack the king with further checks. But there are no more checks. Okay, so what to do in this position? All of the checks seem to lead to a draw. Okay, here's the point of the last position. After bishop h4 check, king takes, it seems so natural for the rook to take the queen. It's a forcing move, gives a check, it takes a valuable piece, but in fact, I mean, obviously we have seen that this leads to a draw, but in fact white has another forcing move in this position, and this is knight f5 check. And the point is that black is in check, so it's a forcing move. This square and this square are controlled by the king and the knight as well. So the king only has two moves, and it's a classical forcing move, because we can calculate a very clear variation. And it becomes clear that after king h5 we have a mate here. That's as forcing as it can get. And the other move, king h3, we have another check. And again this square is blocked by the knight. So the only move is king g2. And now we have the double attack on the queen and the king, and white will win the game. Okay, so what can we learn from this position? If you are, let's imagine this is a position from your game. Okay, and you know, black has the king, so that's super dangerous. I have the pieces, and if the exchange, if the pieces are exchanged in an unfavorable way for me, I might even gonna lose because black still has the pawn to queen. And then you see you have a lot of checks, and you calculate all the variations that give a check. And it's already a lot of moves to calculate, right? And then you do a calculation like this, and you see, okay, it's a draw. And then, I don't know, you calculate a variation like this, and you see it's a draw. And then you say, I'm really disciplined, and I want to see, can I maybe get something here? And then you calculate this long variation, and you see you go nowhere. Maybe you're even a bit afraid of playing this because now you don't really have a check anymore, and you give black the opportunity to play. In a situation like this, many players will be tempted to simply go in a drawn variation, and then be happy to have reached a draw. And the point that we can learn from this position is check all forcing moves. So if you go in this variation, discipline yourself to look for forcing moves. And there are three forcing moves in this position. Not only rook takes queen, which is again the most obvious one because you're taking the queen, but there's also knight f3 check and knight f5 check. And you might find out that actually knight f5 check leads to a won position. So the key learning from this position, calculate all forcing moves in your variation, and don't be tempted to see that there's a drawn variation and then just quickly go for it, but at least calculate all the very forcing moves. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you learned a lot. If you like these videos, don't forget to click subscribe so that YouTube will send you an update whenever a new video comes out. See you next time, and thanks a lot.